This lesson, we're going to be looking at node removeChild method, which removes a child node from the DOM and returns the removed node. So it actually returns the removed node. So let's set up and go into our HTML code, and we're going to create some divs. So the first div that we're going to create is going to be the parent, or this is going to be whatever the top div is. And then when in the top div, we're going to have a nested div as well, and give that one a class of nested. And we can create a few of these. So we'll have nested 1, 2, and 3. So we'll have a few different nested elements on the page. So the objective is to use JavaScript and remove them from the page. Let's apply some JavaScript and remove the elements. So first, let's make a selection of the element that we want to remove. So this is going to be the top element that we want to remove, and selecting it using the document object and using query selector. We're going to select the element with a class of top. So just indicate that with a dot and top. So that will select that element for us within that object so that we can use that. And then also let's select the nested elements. So we'll just call this nest1, and again using the document and query selector. And we just only want to select the first one. So select whatever one is nested. And now let's remove the child. So let's remove element and select that element that we want to remove. And we need to select the parent. So using the parent element object and using the removeChild method. So it's going to remove the child node from the DOM, and it also returns the removed child. And then we need to specify which element we want to remove. And now if we console log the removed element, we've got the element object there. And then let's also try to console log the existing element, so that one that we just removed. So what do you think is going to get returned back in the first console, and what do you think is going to get returned back in the second console message? Let's check it out and see what happens. So we still have the removed element that's selected into, this is the return of the removed element. So on the callback, it just gives us the element that was removed. And then we also still have that element sitting within the object because we've defined the object as, so we've got our main element, which is the top element. And then we have nest1, which is still referencing that same memory location where the nested object was sitting. So we can also remove the element by removing out, so we don't have to specify the parent. We can remove the element itself. So let's do that for nest2, where we're going to use the document and query selector. And this time we're going to do a query selector all, because we want to select the second element. So we need to select all of the elements in a node list and then specify which elements we want to work with. So we're using nest2, and we're getting all of the nested elements. And if you console log nest2, that's going to return back all of the elements that are nested. So we've got a node list, and currently we still only have the 2 that are available in there because we have removed out the one that's there. So we've removed out that first one there. So if we were to actually change the order of the code, we should still have all 3 elements that are listed out when we do the select query selector all. And we've got the node list of 3 elements. So that also includes the memory location reference to nested 1. So that one is still within our node list. And that way, whenever we do the remove, we can still reference it by the order that we're seeing it on the page. So using nest with an index value of 1, this is going to reference that second one. So with the value of nested 2. So let's go ahead and we're going to remove this one. And this time we're going to remove it without having to specify the parent node. So we've made the selection, and first we want to check to make sure that the node actually exists. So let's select nest2 with an index of 1 and selecting whatever the parent node is. So this is going to return back the parent of the specified node tree. So we're going to see if it actually exists. And before we do that, we'll log that out into the console so that we can see that it exists. And before we actually check to see if it exists. So if it exists, so if this element does have a parent node, then we can use that parent node and navigate to the element that we want to remove. So similar to what we just did here where we did the remove child, but this way we don't have to make a selection of that parent element, as we're just going to use whatever one we're referencing, and then we also have the node that we're referencing here in nest to index value 1. So this way this will give us the ability to remove that one. So now we've removed out nested 2 as well, and it gets returned back. So within the parent that we're returning back, we see that we've got nested 3 because this is referencing that parent object, and nested 2 is the one that got removed, nested 1 also got removed, and then nested is the one that we're still outputting into the console. So let me actually move this, change the order, and move that around. So also, if you want to remove all children from an element, we can do that as well. So if we wanted to save ourselves some time, instead of selecting each one individually, we can remove all of them. And we need to specify, only need to make a selection of the parent. So what I'll do is I'm going to comment all of this out and toggle a block comment so that that code's not going to be running. And we're going to make a selection of the parent. And what we want to do is remove out all the child elements. So we're going to select the while, and then using topple. And while it has a first child, so while that exists, we can continue to loop through. And we do need a way out of this loop. And that means that once we run out of children within the topple, within that selection, then we're not going to have any more children to remove, and we're going to break the loop. So let's make a selection of this element, so topple, so just as we saw before, and then use the removeChild method, and then we're selecting the element, the parent element, and then using the first child to navigate and return back that first child. And so removed element, assign a value to that. And what I'll do is I'll console log the removed element. And let's also push it into an array. So create an array, just a blank array. Actually, that's an object. Let's create an array. And what we can do is we can take that array and push into the array whatever that removed element would be. So after we finish the while loop, we can console log the value of temp, which is going to be the array that's holding all of the removed elements. So let's see what happens. So we loop through, and we removed out all of the elements from the page and from that parent element. And we see that we've also removed out the children here. So we've removed out the text separately. So we've actually removed out 6 children from that parent element, and one of them was the text, and then the next was the div, and then we had the text, because we are removing out nodes, so it's not referring to the elements. So this is a little bit misleading, but we are removing out the nodes. So actually this should be removed node, as it's referencing the node that was removed from the page and not the entire element that we were removing. And that's how you can use the removeChild to remove out elements from the page. So go ahead, try it out.